determination, strength, and victory. For 80 years, heroes looked to the Stadio dei Marmi in Rome for these. At that time, it was a cult sporting site of the fascist movement. Now it is an architectural shadow of Benito Mussolini. These stones once represented heroism. Now they have become a symbol of fascism. But is fascism in Italy really as lifeless as these colossal figures? Sometimes it's more alive than most would like to think. Here in the birthplace of Benito Mussolini, the memory of the Deuce still remains. In spite of all historical, moral and political objections. And even still, there is fascism here. Violent Italian football fans mimic the old Roman greeting of outstretched hands. This provoked nationwide outrage in the media. All parties agreed that it brought shame to the whole of Italy. Porta San Paolo in Rome, where the 1943 armistice between Italy and the Allies was declared. President Giorgio Napolitano, a former communist, is present, as well as Ignazio La Russa of the newly formed People of Freedom Party, a fusion between Berlusconi's Forza Italia party and the Alleanza Nationale. I would be going against my conscience if I didn't pay my respects to the soldiers of Salo. In their eyes, they gave their lives to defend the values of their homeland and fought against the advance of the English and American forces. They deserve the respect of all who take an objective look at Italian history. I remember the soldiers who fought for Salo, and also those 600,000 men who were deported to German concentration camps because they refused to join. Salo is a small town on Lake Garda. It is synonymous with the so-called Italian Social Republic, where, in 1943, the fascist state existed in northern Italy. While the south of the country had already been liberated by the Allies, Salo was under the rule of Benito Mussolini until 1945, and was the second Italian fascist state run under the guidance of Hitler. The Republic of Salo was a puppet state, wherein human racial laws were strictly enforced. Soldiers or freedom fighters, who were the real patriots? It's an issue that has created a split amongst Italians. In his youth, Giorgio Bocca was a follower of Mussolini, but later joined the partisans and fought against the fascist puppet state of Salo. At that time, the situation was very clear. The Nazi regime was not only illegitimate, the country was also occupied. To fight against this anti-democratic system was the normal duty of every citizen. Several Italian politicians from right-wing parties have argued against this assessment of the resistance fighters. The mayor of Rome, Gianni Alemanno, said that fascism itself was not evil, but rather the racist laws it represented were. This is how heirs of fascism justify and present their case. To put it plainly, German fascism is bad, whereas Italian fascism is harmless.
In realtà, il fascismo italiano fu un fenomeno.
In reality, Italian fascism was a phenomenon of a sophisticated and cruel dictatorship. For example, many of the most important political opponents who were causing massive problems to the regime were simply killed. Many were killed at the beginning of fascism, and yet also towards the end of those terrible years. More than 1,000 Jews disappeared in the first major crackdown against Jews in Rome in autumn 1943. 15 of them survived the Nazi concentration camps. This crime was condemned by Gianfranco Fini, who was the leader of the extreme right in Italy years ago. Fini kept his neo-fascist past a secret from all but the members of his own party. Some party colleagues still find it difficult to condemn fascism. Rome's mayor, Alemanno, calls fascism a complex phenomenon. That's true, but the intention is still plain to see. Calling fascism a complex phenomenon means nothing. This is not a condemnation of fascism. There are plenty of opportunities in Italy to publicly distance oneself from fascism. The example here was a disgrace, shout right-wing politicians in unison. But under this surface of indignation seethes revisionism.
Quando il revisionismo invece è soltanto
If revisionism is merely nostalgia for the past, without any new documents as a basis, then it is arbitrary.
allora diventa assolutamente arbitrario. E questo
And the revisionism that is spread across Italy is very arbitrary.
È così, è particolarmente arbitrario.
Adesso vanno a cercare tutti i fascisti sono
Nobody bothers about the fascists among the violent soccer fans.
agli squadristi.
But in Italy, we also have moderate fascists, alla Berlusconi.
Sta tornando un altro, è il fascismo.
Those around Berlusconi would prefer fascism if they had to choose between democratic revolution of the partisans and fascism.
Scegliere fra una rivoluzione democratica come era quella portata
Berlusconi is lucky that he's not judged by his actions, but by his celebrity and glamour.
Berlusconi è che
Everywhere he goes, the masses follow him, just as they followed Mussolini.
In sé si giudica lo spettacolo. Allora Berlusconi fa spettacolo e tutti lo seguono, un po' come è stato con Mussolini.
They're all democratically elected, so is a distancing from fascism still needed? But with Berlusconi merging with the post-fascist Alleanza Nationale, Italy's centre-right is set to flourish in the face of disarray on the left.
I
believe that the current economic crisis favours the return of fascism, just like it did at the time of the world economic crisis in 1929. All of Italy faces a challenge: to keep fascism from becoming alive again.